Welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Connecting you with trendsetters who are leading innovation in public safety and expert advice on growing your own post-law enforcement business. And now, your host, Adam Wills.
Welcome to the show. Today I have John Wojtasek with me from Lux Lab. He is a filmmaker, a marketer, a storytelling fanatic, and a fellow StoryBrand certified guide. And today he's here to talk with us about the power of video in your business's marketing and why you should be leveraging video in your business and how you can walk away today with some tips on how to get started. Maybe if you aren't already leveraging video, it could be an overwhelming thing, and he's going to give us some tips on where to start. So John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you on. Like I said, fellow StoryBrand guide. It's always neat when I get to have other StoryBrand guides on the show. You bring a wealth of knowledge and information about marketing, and obviously specific to you, we're talking about video today. So why don't you tell me a little bit about why is video so important in your opinion for business owners?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, relationships move through three stages. So there's curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment, right? So I think video really helps build that human connection in the way that relationships are formed, right? So you think about just kind of anecdotally, the way that we communicate as human beings, it's not just the content of the words that we choose to use, right? It's also our gestures, our expressions, our tone of voice. I think I've seen that something like 70% of communication is nonverbal. So if you think about that, if you're only leveraging copy, even if it's well written, beautifully written, it's just the words that you're using. So video helps you kind of elevate that communication and make that human connection, build trust, to help people move through those stages.
I've also heard along similar lines that there's an importance to creating human connection through video, because you get to actually, when you see a person versus just seeing a picture, right? I mean, or not seeing them at all. But when you see a person on video and you get to see their eye movement, there's something about human connection through visualizing eye movement that allows you to create more of a personal connection and feel like you know them better, which obviously, like you said, because, relationships, all relationships, including business relationships, move through those three stages of curiosity, enlightenment, and commitment. Video can help us move through those stages a lot quicker and take us from the curiosity stage to the enlightenment and commitment stage a lot quicker. It's kind of like that know, like, and trust thing, right? Like you got to build that know, like, and trust factor right off the bat. Yeah,
exactly. If you think about it, if there's two websites that are virtually the same, let's say, and all things being equal, the copy, everything is compelling and powerful. If you're looking at website A that doesn't have video, you're reading text and maybe you see some graphics and things like that. You look at website B, and if you're greeted by a video, someone on a video saying, "Hey, it's great to meet you. I'm so glad you're here." You can already kind of feel the quality of that human connection being that much more enhanced because that video exists.
Yeah, I agree. I use a tool on my website for my marketing agency, StoryWeb Creative. I use a tool called Warm Welcome. And it creates a little video bubble in the bottom right corner that people can click on. And they have the ability to, there's a little video that I recorded just saying, "Hey, welcome to my website. And let me know if you have any questions." And they can actually respond via video themselves or just text or recording audio. And I tell you what, that little bubble on my website gets more engagement than I think anything else. So people certainly seek that out. They're looking for that personalized experience when they come to your website. And if you have that option for them, video is going to be the first place they go. And I'll even add to that having video on your website, and this is coming from me as the marketing strategist, web designer guy, video on your website it increases your dwell rate, right? So
Yes.
people stay on your website longer if you have engaging video content for them to view, versus if it's just plain text, they just kind of scroll, scan, and then they move on to something else of more interest to them. And so
Yeah.
there's certainly a lot strategically behind video. So what would you say? I mean, we've been talking about our websites here right now and using video on websites.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common ways or methods that you suggest from a StoryBrand perspective on how to leverage video on your website?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say, just like with your brand in general, you want to have that cohesive, compelling, concise, simple story, just to clarify kind of why your brand exists and how it helps people overcome their problems, as the guide, right? So I would say you need that kind of central hero video, if you will, that kind of just lives there and communicates that same narrative. So if you have a brand script, or something like that, just simply turning that into a video is often a great place to start, because then people get that overview that walks them through that StoryBrand framework as far as, who the character is, resonating with them and who they are, their pains, and how you can help them overcome those ultimately as the guide. So that video is a great place to start, just kind of as an overall umbrella, kind of inviting people to meet your brand. And invite them into that story. So that's a great place to start. And I know a lot of people use this term of like, I'm building a referral based business. So I know that's popular as well, as like referrals and word of mouth. So obviously the power of testimonies of someone who has gone through this journey, through your plan, and responded to your call to action and actually had their life transformed. Capturing those stories is really great, because it allows, again, that transfer of trust, and we're talking about moving through those stages of relationship quickly. So if you have that testimony there in a video that walks people through, they can see, even if it's a stranger, right? We usually think of referrals as, I know you and I refer you to someone else, right? But even through video, you can just have testimonies. If it's a stranger, someone I've never met before, already I can transfer that trust, right? Because I identify with them.
Social proof.
And I recognize, exactly. And I recognize them as someone like me. And if they've been helped by this guide, if they've experienced that sort of transformation in their life, then maybe I can too, right? So that's another great kind of first video to make. If you don't have any videos, I'd say those two together to invite them into your brand script or into your brand story. And then to leverage testimonials to kind of transfer that trust. I'd say those are kind of the core foundational videos that you want to be sure you have.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And in fact, I'm going to add a third one that from my perspective, I always suggest to every one of my clients the same thing. So first of all, you need to have a brand narrative video, right? And that is essentially just reading your brand script, right?
Yep.
So if you've gone through the StoryBrand SB7 framework and created your brand script, essentially you're just creating a video narrating your brand script. And it doesn't have to be verbatim. It needs to be natural, but that's the essence of it, right? And then the second one, like you said, is testimonial videos and leveraging testimonial videos. But then I also suggest to every client an about page video or an about video. Because there's, and we can get off into the weeds here on this. I'll try not to, but there's always this thing that's thrown out there that your about page is the third most viewed page on your website, which there are studies out there that show that demonstrate that. But I think that often gets misconstrued by people and misunderstand that, because when they hear that, they think, oh, well, if my about page is the third most viewed page on my website, that means that people really just want to know about me. Well, the reality is that's not the case, right? It's and that's part of the StoryBrand philosophy, is that it's not about you. It's about the customer. It's about the hero, right? And even your about page should be about them, right? Like you need to introduce who you are as a person in your company, but through the lens of why it matters to the hero. And I think the reason why your about page is the third most viewed page on your website is because people are so confused most of the time by they're just desperately looking to try and figure out what is your business actually about, because most people don't know how to write effective copy for a website, and they're so confused by the homepage that they're like, well, if I go to the about page, maybe I'll be able to figure out what this is actually about, right?
Yeah, yeah,
but I think an about page video is a perfect place to be able to just demonstrate that empathy and authority piece as the guide, and also throw in there a case study, right? Be able to explain in that video and say, hey, I there was this one time where I had this client and they were struggling with this thing, and this is how we helped them, right? I mean, that's what your about page should be about, is how you actually help people.
Yeah. And what that brings to mind for me too is that part of the StoryBrand framework, the philosophical problem, right, is oftentimes kind of, to use Simon Sinek's language, it's people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So if the why you do it relates to the hero and their problems, kind of that philosophical problem, it shouldn't be this way, or you deserve whatever, right? That type of language, I think that's what you're saying is definitely resonating, because if that's your opportunity on your about page to really frame the philosophical problem and why you do what you do the way you do it and so on. So I think that's a great, synergy there with the StoryBrand framework, and also that about page philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked now about our websites. Are there other places that you suggest leveraging video, or are there places, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, if I'm new to using video in my business, there's a lot of different places that you can use video. There's YouTube, and there's LinkedIn, and there's Facebook and Instagram, and there's recorded video, and there's live video, and there's DIY video, and there's professional video, right? Like, so there's a lot of things that can feel overwhelming. Is there kind of a primary strategy that you suggest people employ that gets them off and running without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, definitely. I am a huge fan of simplicity, right? So I think a lot of times it can seem so overwhelming because, like you said, there's so many options, and you're hearing, oh, you got to be on TikTok now, and oh, you got to be on, Facebook, Instagram. TikTok. Yeah, exactly. So there's so many options, but I think in a way it depends, right? Because if you're like selling a product, people want to see things like how your product works. How does it function? What are kind of the features and benefits? So that might be one angle you could go if you're kind of like e-commerce or something like that. Really show people your product in action. But I would say in general, regardless of your brand, just think back through kind of your sales funnel. One of the things we talk about is that nurture sequence. Just if you can show up in people's inbox, or a lot of times what that translates to is their phone, right? The thing in their pocket that their emails get sent to, you stay top of mind for them. So I think really that's, to make it super simple, that's really all you're after. So if you found success on social media as a way to stay top of mind, and that feels natural to you, like it fits for your personality and things like that, I would say go for it. Like native video, especially on Facebook, on Instagram, just rises, right? You've heard about these algorithms, these things that are kind of operating behind the scenes, and video just gets bumped up, right? You're reaching more people, so your reach expands. Again, similar to the concepts we talked about with your website, people stick around longer because if they're just scrolling and you want to have that thumb stopping presence, if they see motion, if they see someone talking, a lot of times they'll wait for just a little bit longer, right? They'll give that video just a little bit longer, similarly to your website, right? So those bounce rate that's the idea there. It gets people to pause for just a little bit longer and give your message a chance. But if social media isn't the way to go, maybe you want to build up, like you said, a YouTube channel. Maybe you're more of an educator or a course creator or something like that, and you want to prove kind of your value. That could be a great way where you can create ongoing content and, again, just nurture that audience, remind them that you exist, stay top of mind, so that when they're ready in those three stages of relationship, when they're ready to move forward, you're top of mind for them and they associate your solutions with their problems. So yeah, I would say in general, just it's the same process. Think through your sales funnel, think through your objectives. Is if you can just stay top of mind for people, that's half the battle. If you can just show up and remind them that you exist, that's going to help you out.
Yeah. So do you think that there's a need then to try and be in as many of those places at once as possible? I mean, do you recommend leveraging like the same video in multiple platforms, or do you think it's important to create curated video content
Mhm.
for each platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, again, to keep things simple, if you're one person and you've only got yourself, you don't have a workforce or a marketing department or, something like that. It doesn't hurt, again, just to repurpose content. I think that's kind of what you alluded to. So let's say you create courses or you do interviews like you're doing here. You can take that content and create bite-sized clips, shorter videos, and put those on those other platforms. What's really important is just that that video is native to whatever platform you're using. So for example, you don't want to take a YouTube link and just copy and paste it into a Facebook post.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? You want to take that video and edit it and prepare it to exist natively on whatever platform you're considering. So things like aspect ratios, if it's horizontal versus vertical, these are the things you want to think through so that it lives and doesn't feel unnatural when people are scrolling through. But that being said, again, I don't think there's any harm in repurposing that content. You'll see a lot of people do this. A lot of brands do this, especially if they're kind of more in the like education or kind of inspirational, and they're just trying to put as much value out and prove themselves as the authority in their space. A lot of people do this. You'll see a quote and a video, and and all that content is kind of repurposed from essentially the same things. But
Right.
because of how algorithms work, again, on social media, you don't know if someone saw something that you put out yesterday. It just may have never shown up in their newsfeed. So the more, I don't want to say you just want to go crazy and just create a ton of content. I think there is a balance there with being intentional and strategic about how you're deploying these tools. But that said, I think the more opportunities you have to show up again and stay top of mind, the better. So I would say in general, pick those core kind of platforms that you want to exist on and really have a strong presence. Do the research, figure out if that's YouTube, right? What YouTube wants you to do as a user of their platform, and kind of play and hack the system if you can a little bit. And then you can always repurpose that content from that main platform to show up on those other platforms later.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you mentioned the importance of not just sharing a YouTube link on,
Yeah.
Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah.
Because so many people do that. They think, well, the video is already
Yep.
there on YouTube. And every one of the social media platforms allows you to just plug in a YouTube,
Yeah.
a YouTube link, right? And it'll embed that
Yes.
video.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't realize how much more reach they can get if they would just upload that video directly into the social media platform, because
Yeah.
obviously Facebook and LinkedIn, they want to serve up content that is native on their platform before they want to
Yes.
serve up content that is on YouTube. So
Yes.
you can get far more reach with your videos by
Mm-hmm.
directly uploading that video into the social media platform that you're trying to post it on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of times there are little things happening, like you said, that kind of almost discourage or deprioritize if you're sending people to YouTube. For example, if you looked at a side-by-side comparison of a uploaded, like you mentioned, a thumbnail, if you had embedded a link to YouTube and it just kind of generated that thumbnail preview versus if you had uploaded that video or even a clip, even if you want to send people to YouTube, just give them a taste, a tease, whatever that is, a
Yeah.
15, 30-second clip. You can still send them to YouTube. But if you saw the side-by-side comparison, it's not even close. Like Facebook wants
Right.
people to stay and engage on their platform. So they, in a way, reward native videos that exist the way they want the videos to exist on their platform. And so again, even if your ultimate objective is, I want to grow a YouTube channel, you can still send people to your YouTube channel, but create the native content that gets in people's news feeds for that platform, and then send them wherever you want them to go.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, obviously, you run a video production studio, and so
Yeah.
you're a little bit biased in the sense that you want people to work with somebody professionally to curate their video content.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, can you share with the audience maybe some tips on, let's say, some of our listeners haven't started leveraging video at all for their business, and they're convinced that this is a next step for them that they need to make. They need to start doing video, but they want to maybe kind of test the waters a little bit first and see how it works, and DIY that a little bit. What advice can you give to everybody and how to get started with that? What's the right equipment? Are there certain things that they should be aware of as far as filming angles and lighting and all those things? I mean, just some basic tips on how to get started to create good quality video on their own so that they can get to a point where they can work with somebody like yourself.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, you've probably heard the phrase in the film and cinema world is lights, camera, action, right? So if you just kind of remember that lighting is so key, because that's what creates the image, right? The variation of light and dark, the values of light and dark. So one thing for lighting, a good tip, and I'm sure a lot of people over the past year who, had to use Zoom more and things like that, maybe you've heard some of these tips, but what I like to recommend is keep in mind the lighting source and where you are in relation to your lighting sources. So for example, if I was in front of a big window, I might think this is great, right? It's bright, it's natural light. But I want to position myself in relation to that light source. If you've ever seen somebody with a window behind them, the camera is naturally trying to adjust for that light and create the right settings for that. So you end up looking like a Bond villain, right? You're all shadowed and you can't quite make out their faces, like, they're just this shadowy, mysterious figure, right? So you want to actually position the light source in front of you so that you're well lit. And it's not trying to expose, the camera's not trying to expose for the light that's behind you and bright light behind you. So in general, if you can kind of find a balance for your lighting, so you don't have like really bright, outdoor light and really dark indoor, and you're trying to like compensate for that, if that makes sense. Having even lights. So maybe if you have a lamp, positioning that or having two light sources that are kind of creating an even look. That's kind of a more advanced tip. As far as, the other thing a lot of people forget is audio, because you're thinking video, right? It's visual. So I got to think about all the visual elements, and oftentimes audio gets kind of put in the back burner. But, there are really simple things you can look online and find, even just, microphones that hook up to your phone or Bluetooth, connect wirelessly. Even just, I'm wearing my Bluetooth headphones here as well. The simple things that you might use for a phone call, the same principles apply. So, if you're outside and you're trying to talk on speaker and there's cars driving by, it's not going to be a great experience for the person who's trying to hear you and listen to you. So those same principles apply. If you have some sort of audio equipment that you use regularly, that will work. Or you can get something that's for this purpose. And then, lastly, just to think through kind of your presence on camera. A lot of times when we're sitting across from someone and we're having a conversation, we might have exciting moments and ebbs and flows of energy. But a lot of times on video, you kind of have to overcompensate and be more excited and bring more energy. And it feels unnatural, right? Because we're like, it feels fake or something. But generally, when you go a little bit over the top and bring more energy than you would naturally, it just helps that video turn out that much better. And that's something you can learn over time too, as you experiment and practice. Yeah.
When I first started getting into recording video myself and doing a lot of video content for my audience, somebody told me a piece of advice that along similar lines really helped me. And that was, when you record your video, make your body movements and actions and your voice like almost to the point where you just start to annoy yourself. Like you just barely start to find yourself annoying. And that's where that's the right threshold right there, is like, you just want to be a little bit over the top to the point you find yourself annoying.
Yes,
And it's true
absolutely.
because it doesn't translate the same, right? Like,
Yeah.
if we talked into video the same way that we would talk when we're sitting across from somebody having a conversation, it would be boring. It would be
Yeah.
boring. It wouldn't be engaging at
Right.
all. Like you have to be over the top, and you have to make these, like, you have to get really excited, and you have to talk loud, right, in order to get
Yeah. Yeah.
to actually make it engaging and interesting. So that's a
Yes.
excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one last tip, kind of more philosophically, like we talk about story brand, and the storytelling is so important, right? So I would
Yeah.
say keep your video really simple. So
Yeah.
similarly to, an email, you wouldn't want to have 10 different calls to action, go visit my social media and visit my website and schedule a meeting. Like, be really clear about what the purpose of this one video is, and it will be that much more impactful. We like to use the analogy of like a bow and arrow. Think about, if you're shooting an arrow, you want to know what your bullseye, so who your target audience is. Who is this video intended for? And what is that one kind of key takeaway you want them to have? And then you can aim and hit that arrow right where you intend it to go. So video works in a similar way. You don't want to talk and meander and kind of wander and go through all different topics and multiple calls to action. You want to be clear. Who am I talking to? What is my one key takeaway or controlling idea I want them to know? And what am I calling them to do as a result of watching this video? Don't forget that call to action. Same with your website. You wouldn't want to hide your calls to action buttons, and then people are just confused. Like, where do I go to check out, right? Where do I go to
Yeah.
move forward? So similarly, you don't want to take that for granted and assume that they know what to do or what the point of the video, right, the objective is. So if that's learn more, on my website, go check it out. I've got resources there for you. Be clear about that. If it's follow me on social media, be clear about that, because people will do what you ask them to do. But if you ask them to do too many things or it's ambiguous, then you might be frustrated with the results that you're getting from your video.
Awesome. And I want to point
Yeah.
everybody to also to John's website at Lux
Yeah.
Lab. We are luxlab.com, and on there you will also find a PDF, the top 5 video marketing pitfalls and how to avoid them. So if you
Yeah.
want some more tips and advice from John on how to do effective video, go check that out, download that PDF, and get some of those additional tips. So John, thanks for that. And I wonder, we've got a few
Yeah.
minutes left here. Would you share with us a little bit about how did you get into video in the first place? Because you actually went to film school, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I grew up in the state of Nebraska, which I love
Oh, right
dearly.
next door.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I went to the University of Nebraska, and a lot of people may not know this, but Johnny Carson, kind of the famous late night talk show host, is actually from
Yeah.
Nebraska. So the school that I
Okay.
winto, the film school, is named after him. So it's kind of a fun little bit of trivia for you. But yeah, so I first got into video, into filmmaking, thinking I was going to make video games. So when I went to
Okay.
college, I had this dream as a young kid that I would grow up and make video games. So the only course work, the only major that had that option was the film school. Believe it or not, they had some animation and kind of new media. So I thought, well, that's the closest thing to what I want to do. So maybe I'll try that out. And so, but through that, I took some theater classes, I took some filmmaking classes, screenwriting, all of that. I just fell in love with it. And I have always loved movies. I have fond memories of growing up with my dad and watching, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, all the classic kind of swashbuckler, adventure
Yeah.
movies. And so I've
Yeah.
always loved videos from a young age. And so now I just really love helping brands and businesses use movie magic, that same movie magic, and captivating their audience and helping them create those light bulb moments with the people that they serve so that they can, engage with that brand and ultimately, transform through that.
Awesome. And now you
Yeah.
guys are based in Denver, Colorado, and obviously,
Correct.
so then you go out on scene with clients to film. They come to your
Yeah.
studio, but you can work with clients around the country, right? You'll actually fly out on scene where they are
Yes.
and film and that sort of thing too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We are connected with filmmakers all over the country. So if we need to, we can manage that and make sure that we've got a cinematographer that can make the video. We fly our directors or our crew out depending on kind of the scope of the project and what's involved. But yeah, we work with clients all over the country. In fact, we've actually been international. We've taken a couple of trips overseas to Poland and also the Holy Land. We've done some video work there. So yeah, we've traveled all over the country, all over the world, and we love doing that.
Awesome. And I should let everybody know here on the show too that John and I have been discussing a partnership that is kind of unfolding as we speak in creating some opportunity to essentially bake in some video packages to my marketing agency, StoryWeb Creative, to website packages that we do. Like I said, I preach to every client the importance of video on their website. And so we started talking about opportunities on how to partner together to have all of my clients, our clients, work with you for video to be able to accomplish that. And so I'm pretty excited about what that may look like here in the very near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. I mean, we don't want to make a video for someone that's not going to work for them. We know that, you need to have those resources in place, that sales funnel in place, a great website. Otherwise, you're confusing your audience as well. So likewise, we know how important it is that you don't just have a video, but that you are using that and leveraging that to actually be strategic and work well for you.
Yeah. Well, awesome, John. It's been great having you on the show. Lots of good information that you shared today. Why don't you let everybody know before we go here how they can connect with you? Where do they find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for doing that. We, Lux Lab, as you said, weareluxlab.com is our website. You can find us at We Are Lux Lab on Facebook, luxlab.productionhouse on Instagram. We're on YouTube as well. So yeah, you can connect with us anywhere that you connect with folks online.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being on the show, John. It's been awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Adam.
All right. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review at psi.chat/review. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other public safety innovators like yourself find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to psi.chat, click on episodes, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.